Mamdani, in a rare moment, is commenting on politics outside of New York and has just straight up, oh, it even says that in the video title, straight up calls on Graham Platner to drop out. That's genuinely crazy. That's very uncommon for him.
I wanted to ask, given that you have a sort of ascendant role in the Democratic Party, could you talk about the Maine Senate race? Do you think that Graham Platner should drop out of the race? And do you have any intention of endorsing any candidates in competitive races outside of New York, El Said or anyone else?
No, I believe that it's time for him to drop out of the race. And when it comes to my own endorsements, I've made 8 endorsements at the state and federal level. They've all been right here in New York.
Any progressive worth their salt understands how harmful Platner is to the movement right now. Yeah, Platner has to be gone yesterday. He needs to be unpersoned, essentially. He needs to be removed immediately, as quickly as possible. Yeah, Bernie Sanders has also retracted his endorsement. Ro Khanna did, of course. No surprises there.
I'm incredibly excited at the fact that they won their races, and that's where my focus is for now. I think the focus of today should be to respond to the gravity of what so many of us have read. And I think that the only appropriate response is for the campaign to come to an end.
That's very direct. Super, super, super direct.
With us now, Julie Roginski, Democratic strategist and author of The Salty Politics.
You think he'll grift to the right in the future? Maybe, but I don't actually think Platner's insincere about being progressive. I just think he's a rapist. I know it sucks, but like, that is an intersection that exists in real life. There are people with good political positions that are bad people.
Newsletter on Substack. I also want to bring in MS Now's Kevin Fry. Kevin is joining us from Portland, Maine, and MS Now senior congressional reporter and host of Way Too Early, Ali Vitali. This is a family program, Julie, so I cannot repeat what you said to me during commercial break, but this is messy.
It is. That's one way to put it. It is quite messy. It's frankly, a problem of the Democratic Party's own making. It's not like the signs weren't there. I implore people.
I agree. I blame the DSCC for this. Schumer cleared the field of potential candidates to beat Collins and instead pitched Mills, someone who didn't even want to be a senator because she was sufficiently loyal to Israel. And then, of course, the people of Maine didn't want her, and she got fucking bodied in the primary, and Platner ran away with it. If they hadn't cleared the field and allowed for an actual primary, which the Democrats despise, Democrats hate it when you run without the permission from the DSCC. Why isn't he dropped already? Well, the rumor is that Graham Platner is leveraging dropping from the race in exchange for not releasing more Oppo research that's going to drop on him, potentially involving the abuse of children by him or his unit while he served as a mercenary in Iraq. That's the rumor. We don't know if that's true, but the rumor is that he's not dropped out yet because he's going to drop out in exchange for them not releasing that information, which is insane. And if that's true, somebody's got to do something about that.
People to once again believe women when they tell you the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth time. And you won't have to be in this kind of situation. We knew about Graham Platner because other women had told us. And yet there was...
No, don't believe people who talk like this. The initial slate of allegations against Graham Platner were a wide variety of, I've had mixed personal experiences with him, and the one person who had like a serious set of negative allegations against him was a Republican operative whose story couldn't be corroborated. The allegation, the one that came out yesterday, is categorically different to the ones that came out previously. We don't need to pretend that all these people who were opposed to Platner because he's like a progressive or whatever were right all along.
Excuse after excuse after excuse from the highest ranks of the party, from people like Bernie Sanders, from people like Elizabeth Warren and Ro Khanna and others, to say, well, you know what, there's nothing to see here. We're not going to pay attention. We're going to ignore it. Don't ignore women when they come and tell you what is happening, because then you're going to end up with less than a week to go, scrambling to replace somebody on the ballot who's already won his primary.
Let's talk about that timeline, Ali Vitali. If Platner drops out by Monday, the Maine Democratic Party will get to choose his replacement. Yeah. What are you hearing from National Dems about what needs to happen in the next 6 days?
Well, the problem is there's like half a dozen names in the mix, and I say the problem because the word in my
text most devastating part of the Platner allegations is that FD signifier is right. Legitimately, and I'm being serious here, and I hope I don't have to crack the whip on this again, get your fucking mind out of the gutter, okay? He's a serious Senate candidate who has been found to have raped a woman. The idea that you're framing this in the context of like which insufferable internet content creator was or wasn't right is genuinely like degenerate. I'm not gonna like moral frog you or be like, oh, you can never make jokes, you can never be glib about bad things happening, because I do that all the time. But like a bunch of people just treat this like as oh, here's a point for the shit libs or whatever. Shut up, okay? So they were right. Their suspicions were correct. Okay, eat it. Live. Move on.
With Democratic sources at the national level, Alicia, has been messy, and of course the more colorful ones that I imagine you guys are using on set. But I think those 2 days on the screen are really important because, of course, you mentioned the July 13th.
Blue Sky's been insufferable with the told you so shit. Blue Sky's always insufferable. Don't even look at it. Who cares? You made the decisions you made based on the available evidence. The available evidence has changed. You make new decisions. That's it. Move on. Don't allow people to like leverage their biases against you in a way that compromises your ability to understand the gravity of the situation and respond properly. You're weak. Look, none of you, not a single one of you, maybe not even all of you combined, have as much like I told you so bullshit weighing down on your expressed opinions as I do, okay? But I have a clear mind on this. I see the new evidence, my opinion changes, that's it. You don't need to engage in this like broader ego game with other people. So people you don't like are being insufferable. That's great, man. You know, like in between me starting and ending this sentence, probably like 50 kids have died of starvation. Refocus your priorities.
5 p.m. deadline to remove his name from the ballot. But then there's an open question about what happens in that intervening period until July 27th. There have been ideas floated, everything from a convention the weekend before that July 27th deadline to a caucus to some way for voters to have another say, or at least the party apparatus to be the say for them. And what one person was saying to me who's closely aligned with what was the Platner campaign and now is looking...
Vosh just cannot admit that his endorsement of Platner was not a good judgment call from the beginning. I had doubts about his self-control and his discipline from the beginning. I do not think that I was acting incorrectly then. I adjust my position with the evidence. If you think that you were always correct in your position, that's fine. Clearly, the more cautious position from the start is the one that's been validated, you know? It's like... You have to be process-oriented, not outcome-oriented. Is your process better? In this instance, it's produced a better outcome. Will I question myself in the future? I mean, maybe in the future I'm going to remember this and might change my opinions, but, you know, it really depends on the evidence available.
For who comes next is basically this idea that they don't want to be seen just anointing the next person because they view it as a rebuke of Kamala Harris and the way that she ascended to the top of the Democratic Party in 2024. And so I think that to the extent that Maine has always sort of been this proxy of the age question after Biden and now the ascension question after Harris, I think we're seeing it play proxy in yet another way. And the question is how they're ultimately going to deal.
We got to be more strict with vetting. Nobody vetted Graham Platner. Graham Platner is not a DSA candidate. Graham Platner is just like a chud, like dark horse candidate who ran away with the race because the Democrats cleared the field and pitched Mills. If there was a competent, popular candidate running for Senate in Maine, Platner wouldn't have taken off the way he did. He became the candidate that spoke to the desire for a change in the political system for Mainers because Schumer deliberately cleared the field of any possible opposition. Like, it's not a matter of vetting. Keep in mind, the average supporter of Platner is not a Twitter leftist. It's an independent Mainer. Like, he ran away with popular support in Maine, with liberals and left-leaning independents. It's not a Twitter lefty thing. I agree, though, that this whole debacle has been an enormous reaffirmation of the importance of extremely strict and controlled candidates, you know? Like this is a huge endorsement of the DSA. The DSA and their ability to, like, lock in and really vet their candidates to be strategic, very important.
With that, but yeah, it's a mess.
Kevin, I got to say, I've been watching you from that beautiful live shot in Maine. I have seen our friend Ali Vitale out in Iowa in the depths of the cold. I have seen Vaughn Hilliard brave the Arizona sun to the extent that I wanted to send him some sunscreen because I am so concerned about him. Beautiful Maine in summer, but wow, what a mess. What are you hearing from Maine voters?
Yeah, it's not unfortunate that they are letting this drama play out in the middle of what is a brutal summer south of here, but quite lovely
here. Did the
here.
DSA not endorse him? Maine DSA recommended people vote for him, but did not endorse him. He is not a DSA candidate. Maine DSA said he was preferable to Mills or to Collins, and based on the policies that he holds, that is absolutely true. But there's a difference between being an endorsed candidate and a candidate they recommend you vote for, you know? Like, I recommended people vote for Biden over Trump in 2020. An endorsement is a different level of certification, though. Like, there's a difference between, like, I think they're better than this person. An endorsement is like our organization has vetted, we are with them. There is a difference. The obfuscation of that difference is being pushed by people with, you know, bad intent, people acting in bad faith, but it's not something you should concern yourself with
at this moment. When it comes to what the voters are saying, obviously a couple weeks ago, after some of those preliminary stories, or at least the latest round of stories about Platner came out, and apologies for a very loud plane.
If it's true and she has no political motivation, why would she do this now? I'm just going to say this once. I know we have to run through this gamut again, but any, like, skepticism that you express that takes the form of, why did a rape victim act this way, is illegitimate and should not be taken seriously. Why did she, for a variety of reasons that you could probably understand if you took a moment to empathize with her. Use your fucking head. The claims have been corroborated. They've been corroborated based on messages from years ago. This is not even a hill to die on. You're dying in a ditch.
Overhead. The voters I was talking to were more or less open to this idea, which is the campaign message that you've seen Platner give over and over again, that I am a changed man, that I am altering my ways, and I'm going to be a better person, and I will represent you well in Washington. Some of that grace is very much gone as we've been talking to voters throughout the day, including from folks who said that up until just a few days ago, they would have been more than willing to kind of let bygones be bygones and still stand behind him.
I saw a post from PV that Troy Jackson has a very credible accusation of hitting a woman he got into an argument with. My understanding is that's bullshit and PV shouldn't have posted that. Just gonna hit the nail on the head there. My understanding is that's just complete hearsay and that was just like stupid bullshit. Just not real.
But some of what Ali was just touching on is also resonating here, which is this concern that if they do jam through a new nominee, is there going to be a repeat of what we saw in 2024? Will the voters accept that new individual? That is also another open question. Here is a mixture of what we've heard so far today.
It's too bad because I thought he was going to do good. But I'm at the point where I'm starting to change my mind. And I think a lot of people are doing that now, taking a second look.
It's time for us to pull together and either find a new candidate or support him. If he's dropping out, let's rally together and find somebody who can beat Susan Collins.
Do you think he can still win?
Absolutely. I think a lot of the people that I speak to about him are hopeful that he can create a different, create and evoke change in a way that
a lot of people just aren't aware of how bad the accusations are. Keep in mind, like, the average person is just not that politically keyed in. We are different.
Collins absolutely cannot and doesn't seem motivated to do so.
That's part of the proxy conversation that you're seeing here, which is that, some voters really like, and I've heard this throughout the last couple of weeks, they really like what Platner stands for, another plane overhead. But when they hear him talk about what he stands for, and they hear his platform, they are willing to go back to him and overlook some of the drama. That now is dissipating. The one other kind of notable point here that plays into this whole question of what comes next if Platner does decide to pull the lever.
It's true, Thana. The average person, though, probably doesn't really have a good understanding of why this accusation is different from the previous ones. The average person doesn't really know shit. The average person is fucking retarded and honestly doesn't deserve to have the right to vote. We might not believe in a vanguard party in a strict sort of policy sense, but we recognize that, like, we deserve to have opinions and they don't. Or at least I do. And you too, Thana. You and me.
Hey, I'm stepping aside. Democrats.
The Instagram messages are disgusting. Keep in mind, a lot of people really do not understand what's going on here. We know it's all Heritage Foundation members making this shit up. Trump's in the Oval Office, so who cares? Don't drop out. A lot of people do not know. They just don't know. They're not aware. I can't even fault them that much because, like, again, do you expect them to read, like, every hit piece against candidates they like? If you want to blame somebody, blame the mainstream media for fielding so many bad faith attacks on progressive candidates that it becomes difficult to discern the good ones from the bad ones. We read it. We read political media. We can discern what's good from what's bad. The average person cannot. Media has proven itself to be incredibly untrustworthy time and time again. 1,000 hit pieces were done on Mamdani calling him an anti-Semite. How anti-Semitic is Mamdani? Not even remotely. We the media has proven itself untrustworthy on this, and I blame them for people's ignorance on this. But he should drop out immediately.
Can now pick someone new. Is part of that process is this push you're seeing from some of the potential candidates that would be in the mix, particularly one who used to be a health official here in Maine, basically saying we
should learn from the example of Fetterman. This has nothing to do with Fetterman, not even remotely comparable.
A debate. We need to be doing town halls. They want to make this public, which could make this another complicated process.
Well, and Ali, as we've been on air, there's now a statement that's been sent out by Senator Bernie Sanders, reading in part, in light of these serious allegations, we have recommended that he, meaning Platner, step aside, a growing chorus of voices.
A growing chorus of voices, though Sanders is the last name that we were really looking to, because he's someone who was an early elevator of Platner's, someone who gave a lot of validation to what we were seeing on the ground in Maine. And so notable that Sanders is now out with that statement and calling on him to step aside. You know, I've been working the phones and talking to sources since yesterday when this story dropped. And ultimately, someone who'd been in touch with the Platner orbit said to me just in the last hour or so, he's done and he knows that.
It has to be Troy Jackson. Troy Jackson is actually polled relatively favorably, though we don't have much data on it because, you know, he's not running right now. He's our best bet. If everyone consolidates around Troy Jackson post-haste, there's a possibility this works out. But Graham Platner has to leave immediately.
And I think it's that level of clarity that is not yet translated into the full public view because he has not dropped out yet. But I think it's not so much in the conversations that I'm having a question of if, but more a question of when. And I think that's ultimately why we immediately go to the process
he's not
of,
an outsider, but he is DSA endorsed.
Who might come next? What might they have to do to take him off the ballot, to avoid any confusion? Because ultimately, if you just forecast this ahead, even more past who comes next as the Democratic nominee, this is a seat that...
If there was not enough evidence, you're all willfully naive. If he has changed, can't he change from being a rapist? Doing imperialist merc murders excusable after changing but not rape? I understand that to a lot of you guys, this is just an opportunity to virtue signal. But just to be super, super clear, I think that being a vet, and especially being a mercenary, are damning on one's personality. But the narrative with Platner, and this is a narrative that I believe can exist, is that you can be chauvinist and even sort of nonchalant about war, but your experiences with war cause you to reflect on the country that you live in and cause you to shift progressive. That's the narrative that he campaigned on. He was a vet, he was a mercenary, and his experiences made him more progressive because he realized how fucked up it was. Happened to a lot of people after Vietnam. Like, Vietnam vets were and remain an extremely big contingent of the anti-war movement in America since the 1960s. This is a narrative I believe in. Is it still a red flag? Absolutely it is, and I said that it was. But I don't believe that this should be innately disqualifying. It obviously depends on the circumstances or any baggage that comes up. I don't want to believe, like, to me, it's like you could do the same thing with, like, I don't know, having been like being born rich or a man or something. Like, are these tend to be correlative to having bad opinions? 100%. But I need to see how the chips fall on this one. Now, having broken into a woman's house and raped her, this is not something I'm willing to accept a redemption narrative on, especially since this is something that he hid. Also, the fact that it's hidden makes a big difference. Even if he hadn't hid it, I still think this is utterly disqualifying. But, like, imagine if he had hidden having been a mercenary 5 years ago. You know what I mean? That's very different. That to me, I think that's a narrative I'm a lot less willing to, like, hear a guy out on. Also worth remembering that my support for Platner has always been kind of, I'm not going to pretend that I haven't said you should vote for him. Of course I said that, because I think that he was preferable to Mills and is still preferable to Collins, though I don't think you should vote for him now. His policies are preferable. But I have called into question his decision-making abilities many, many, many times, and I've repeatedly said that he's lying about not knowing what that fucking Totenkopf tattoo is. So, like, again, I understand that for a lot of people, this is an opportunity to virtue signal. You always knew he was bad, blah, blah. Just understand you're not really contributing anything to the discourse. If you do have, like, a salient opinion or, like, a valid lens by which to analyze this, like, you think you have something to contribute, you have to express that, the legitimacy of your opinion, in a way that's not like, well, I was always right. You know what I mean? You have to contribute to people's analytical abilities, not just, like, gloat over them when the outcome favors you. If you want to, like, change people's minds, I mean, if you want to be, like, obnoxious, then I guess keep doing what you're doing.
Democrats really felt like they had a chance at winning. And it's not off the map, but when you look at the ways that outside Senate Dem groups and the DSCC itself are saying, hey, we're not going to put any more money toward this, and you need money to win if there's not a new candidate. Like,
I'm not virtue signaling. I want clarity. You can redeem yourself from Imperial Merc murder. Dog, stop saying Imperial Merc murder. You can't say you're not virtue signaling and then say Imperial Merc murder. He was a mercenary. That is the correct description of what he was. I don't know what he was doing as a mercenary. A lot of mercenaries just sat around bases getting paid obscene amounts of money to do nothing because the whole point of the war in Iraq was to funnel money into the military-industrial complex. You can't say, I'm not virtue signaling. You're telling me you were okay with Imperial Merc murder? No, I never thought it was good to be a mercenary. I just explained, wait, you said Imperial Merc murder twice in the same comment. Okay. Yeah. If his policies are still preferable to Collins, why take the maximalist position and say you shouldn't vote for him? Because we don't want a rapist in the progressive tent. Because voting is a show, it's a signal of support. You do not want to support a rapist. It just on a purely tactical level, it fractures the movement. Because for a lot of people, for one, the idea that you're doing some kind of deal with the devil that leads to a positive outcome in the Senate is not true. Platner's not going to win. You would be supporting a rapist for nothing. You know, the greatest shame is that you betrayed your own principles for nothing. It's you're not getting anything for it except clouding the field. So I just want clarity. Being a merc and serving as a soldier for the Empire? For the Empire? Dog, what is with the Sephiroth talking? And doing God knows what is redeemable but not rape? I think that being a veteran, private or otherwise, private or public, a lot of mercenaries, most mercenaries are veterans, but having encountered bad things and redeeming yourself is a thing. It's a narrative that I can get behind. I think that many famous and effective anti-war protesters have done that. A good example would be Vietnam, right? There were people who didn't just get conscripted, but enlisted for Vietnam and came back hollow men and spent the rest of their lives protesting against America's wars abroad. That's because when they signed up, they were either nonchalant or they had this general idea that maybe war sucks and is bad, but we're broadly on the right side. But then they came back and very much didn't believe that. This is a narrative that I can get behind. It doesn't necessarily mean the narrative is always applicable, but it's a viable path for me. It really depends on the circumstances here, you know? Not he broke into a woman's house and raped her. That's a different thing. That is a different thing. That's not a narrative I can get behind. I'm sorry. I feel like I've explained it pretty clearly. You can incredulously doubt me if you want, but I'm explaining my thought process. If you disagree with it, that's fine. They fought all of chat this morning. Topics like this are kind of like a beacon for mentally unwell people. In all directions, I should say. He didn't break in, it was unlocked. It's still breaking in if the door is unlocked. That's still breaking and entering. Little bait, Jerry on thought. Oh, it was YouTube chat, it's not bait. See, she said he unlocked it with the key he had. You know that can still be breaking in, right? If you give a person a spare key so they can take care of your dogs while you're away, and then at 2 a.m. they enter the house, that's still that's my point. Okay, that's the point you're making. With all respect, we should be clear with our statements right now. Okay, very clear. This is a very unambiguous situation. Yeah, she did say don't come over, but you know.
That is really the whole ball game there. And so the party needs to effectively start from zero, start reinvesting in a new candidate. The resource game is a real thing here. And so that puts them on their back foot in a place where I think they could have been at least on even footing, if not a front foot, against Susan Collins for November.
Let's talk about what is at stake here, Julie, because on one hand, it is, as you said, this more cultural, socio-cultural conversation about the way in which who we do and do not trust, whose allegations are taken seriously. There's also the fact that Democrats want to control this Senate because they want to have a check on a president that believes that he should not have any limits. As I understand the math, Democrats believe they need Ossoff to win in Georgia in order just to hold.
Is there anything other than political article? Well, after we watch this, we're going to watch the interview between the accuser and Jake Tapper.
47. They then turned to Roy Cooper in North Carolina in order to get them to 48. A lot of Democrats would have told you that Maine was that 49 that got them one step closer to either having a tie or having the majority in the Senate. The math now gets much more complicated.
It gets much more complicated. Are we really going to rely on Texas? Are we really going to rely on Sherrod Brown winning in Ohio again? Maybe. But
that interview was so dog shit. Okay, no spoilers. How likely do you think he is to catch an actual criminal charge over this? Not very likely.
Tough state. Are we going to rely on Alaska, which hasn't elected a Democrat in a very long time, to the Senate? So, look, this was the best shot, I think, after Roy Cooper, as you pointed out, for Democrats to have a pickup. I got my start in Maine, actually. It's the very first place I ever did a campaign back in 1996, the year that
Also,
Susan
I don't have
Collins
to address shit. I don't answer for that org.
was elected. She is a formidable candidate. In the very same year that House seats were going Democrat, she held that seat for Republicans as a brand new candidate. So, and she's only gotten stronger since then. She's not to be underestimated. And she's doing the right thing. She's sitting back, watching this all play out, understanding that regardless of who Democrats pick, there's going to be a faction of the party that's not going to be happy, right? This was basically a proxy fight between the Bernie Sanders wing and the Chuck Schumer wing. And that can't happen anymore. Everybody's got to put their stuff aside, vet whoever's next. My God, they have to vet whoever comes next and get behind that person and stop with the purity tests. The purity tests have got to end if the goal here is to get the Senate back. Otherwise, say hello to Susan Collins for another 6 years.
I mean, it does, Kevin Fry, when we talk about the list of possible replacements.
God, this analysis is such shit. Yeah, as if Schumer's not the reason why the field is what it was.
It's part of the reason that so many of the names in the mix are folks who were trying to run for the Democratic nomination for governor in Maine are now clearly have their name in circulation in these conversations, in part because, to Julie's point, they have been as vetted as one can be without having ran the full race.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Troy Jackson is one of the names that's getting batted around quite a lot. He is a former state legislator. He ran, of course, for governor, as you mentioned. He came, I think, in third as they were.
She basically just said, accept whoever the D.C. establishment chooses for you. Yeah. As if, like, Swalwell in California didn't, like, the front runner for the governor's race didn't just get tanked by sexual assault allegations. And also, like, Bill Clinton, like, Neera Tanden had the audacity to act like the establishment vets its candidates when Bill Clinton, notorious Epstein friend and pedophile, was president twice and she worked for him. So yeah, no, again, a lot of shit libs are going to jump on this. Don't listen to them, and I don't care. Stop bringing it up to me.
The computations. I could be wrong on that. There's also, as I mentioned, the former health official here named Nirav Shah. He's out trying to advocate for this sort of debate format to try to get the ball rolling there. There are other names that are being floated around as well. Time will tell. I mean, we've seen some moves, it seems, from the Platner world that they believe that they have some leverage here to try to force a more progressive to be the nominee here. Does he deserve any leverage here? That's another discussion that's out of my purview. But that is part of that internal dynamic that's going on here in Maine. The other thing that I would add to the complication here is that part of this is not just the Bernie Sanders wing versus the Schumer wing. It is this kind of outsider, authentic individual versus kind of mainstream part of the establishment.
The people of Maine chose Platner. And if we want to win against Collins, we need a candidate that the people of Maine will get behind. It was not Mills. It was never Mills.
Establishment. And when you push for someone who is authentic, who talks and acts like normal people, then you present the risk of identifying someone that isn't fully vetted and has these complications.
As opposed to establishment candidates who have never been known to rape people. Come on.
And now here we are.
At least random nobody candidates have pretty much a 0% chance of having been to Epstein's Island.